Diddy's lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, went in hard on Cassie and on Jane, and it was dramatic, and the jury received it as such. They were riveted. Mark Agnifilo put on a one-man show. He was animated, he was angry, he was theatrical, and he said that this is a case of prosecutors wanting to go into your bedroom. This is the way he put it. This is not me talking. This is me telling you what Mark Agnifilo said. He's saying to the jury, they're going into your bedroom, meaning you're next. That's what this case is about. He mocked prosecutors, saying that this was a case about baby oil and Astroglide, which has nothing to do with crimes, and that this is a case where the jury couldn't get Diddy on his taxes, couldn't get him on any business issues, so they went into his bedroom and got him because they didn't like the way he was having sex. So that's the overarching theme here. What is really interesting to me is that we have done multiple documentaries on Diddy, on the trial. I think 7 months ago, I interviewed Mark Agnifilo for one of these docs. And Agnifilo told me exactly what he said to the jury 7 months later. So he didn't waver in terms of his approach to this from 7 months ago until now. Even after the prosecution presented its whole case, it was a carbon copy of what he said on the Tubi documentary, that this is bedroom police, and that is the way he put it. Now, he went in super hard on Cassie and Jane. That seems like a risky proposition, but he did. He said that when it came to Cassie, she wanted money, that she got $20 million from Diddy. She got $10 million from the Intercontinental Hotel. That she didn't go to the police, he said. She went to a civil lawyer for money. And he said that's what this case was about. And then in just a dramatic, theatrical way, he is, Cassie won this, that she's the winner. She got $30 million. Diddy's the loser. He went to jail. So, ladies and gentlemen, he said, this is the modern day love story. So he was just mocking all of this, that he didn't gingerly talk about the various things that allegedly happened. He was just bullish to a point, and this is where it's going to shock you if you didn't know this. He said Cassie wanted to be urinated on, that she wanted it, that this was not anybody forcing it. This was Cassie wanting to be urinated on. Now, you got to remember, when Cassie testified, she was 9 months pregnant. And wow, you're kind of playing with fire when the image the jury might have is of this woman 9 months pregnant. On the other hand, the jury saw some freak-off videos. So even though the image they had of her on the stand was just anathema to what Mark Agnifilo was describing, they saw the freak-off video. So in a way, the freak-off videos benefit the defense here because they could see Cassie engaged in these various sexual acts. So it's not impossible to imagine and juxtapose when you're looking at a pregnant woman on the stand. So he went in hard on her, and he went in hard on Jane. He said, Jane has a great life. Have a good life, Jane, he said. He said she's living in a $10,000 a month apartment that Diddy is paying for. So what he's essentially saying is this was transactional, that these women did these various things because they were getting something back. And not only that, at least in terms of Cassie, he was saying she was into these freak-offs. She enjoyed these freak-offs. So it was more than transactional. It was pleasant to her. I mean, that's essentially what he was saying. So, when you think about it, it's fascinating that the prosecution is saying that here's evidence of sex trafficking by coercion, that you look at Cassie and you look at Jane, and Diddy is paying their rent and paying for other expenses, and essentially saying, if you don't do a freak off, I'm going to pull that away from you. The defense is saying, yeah, he was paying for their rent and he was paying for other expenses and making Cassie a recording star, but it was transactional because they were into it because they wanted that. And if the freak-offs were part of that game, that's just part of the transaction. So they're taking the exact same set of facts, the prosecution and the defense, and they're using it for their purposes, and the jury's going to have to choose which one makes more sense, which is not exactly true because, again, it's a case of reasonable doubt. That if Agnifilo is able to create some reasonable doubt as to consent, as to racketeering, if he's able to create reasonable doubt, that could be persuasive. It could even win the day. What I don't see still is how he gets over the Mann Act. That if you transport a sex worker for the purpose of commercial prostitution, that's the crime. And unless the jury says this is bedroom police, I don't see how he gets out from under that, except that what Agnifilo is kind of telling the jury is ignore that law, that the prosecution is misusing it to get into your bedroom, and that's wrong, and they shouldn't be doing that. So if the jury ignores it, and there actually is something called jury nullification, that could save him even on the Mann Act or even get a hung jury. Speaking of the jury, they will get jury instructions now on Monday. They will presumably deliberate late Monday morning, and then we will just see. They will be able to deliberate Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Thursday, the courts are closed, but the judge said he would allow them to continue deliberating even on Thursday, even though the courts are actually closed. I am not sure how that exactly works, and again, we have no idea when this verdict will come in, but it's not coming in today for sure. They will get it on Monday. We will be all over it. So, as we say, stay tuned.